Hello, everyone. CSAT 2025 is over. So some of you might be happy, some of you might be gloomy, but whatever has been done has been done. So you don't have to now think of the past, think of the future. I'll introduce myself. My name is Kapil Datta. I have been teaching since last 28 years now for coaching industry, primarily for logical reasoning and quantitative ability. I teach reading comprehension as well. And I have been teaching CSAT since last 10 years now. So when I looked at the paper and I found it very similar to the last few papers that have ever appeared. So the number of questions obviously were 80, 15 from logical reasoning, 36 from quantitative ability, and 29 from reading comprehension. So those who have attended my classes, they would know that as it is, I had predicted that the number of questions on logical reasoning and quantitative ability combined together, these two areas. So this remained to be in the range of 50 to 55, and the total number of questions were 51. As it is, I had suggested that you should be attempting near about 50 to 55 questions. Now, in this paper also, it gave you a lot of scope to attempt at least 50 questions. To be on the safer side, you should have more number of attempts, as you know. So considering that, you should be, let us say, so considering that, you should be comfortable if at all you have attempted near about 50 questions. If you haven't, then in that case, your accuracy needs to be really good. But then let me just give you a brief overview of the kind of questions that have appeared in various sections. Like in logical reasoning, there were 4 questions on coding decoding, out of which you could have easily attempted at least 2. 3 questions were really attemptable. Both questions on number series, blood relations, they were attemptable. Cubes and cuboids, 1 question was there where 60 cuts, 60 pieces were obtained by giving minimum number of cuts, if you remember that. So 60 is nothing, but it is 4 into 5. You could have taken 3 into 4 into 5 and minus 1, minus 1, minus 1. So 2 plus 3 plus 4, 9 cuts would have sufficed. So calendars, there was a simple question wherein actually it was more of number series, I would say, wherein you would keep on moving back by 12 months, then 11 months, then 10 months, then 9 months, and you would get your answers. Directions, an easy question. A very simple question on continuous series. Puzzles, there were 3 questions out of which you could have attempted at least 1, preferably 2. So out of 15 questions, I would say that you should have attempted somewhere around 12 to 13 questions. That would be an optimum attempt, I would say. Now let's have a look at quantitative ability, the most feared part, that is mathematics. So once again, number system, it was at the top of the table with 23 questions. Some of them were simple, some of them were really testing, should not have been attempted during the examination. Then the other topics were LCM, HCF, divisibility rules, average, time and distance, ratio, proportion, percentage, time and work, pipes and cisterns. There was no question on profit and loss, simple interest, compound interest, permutation combination, or partnership for that matter. So again, the number of topics on which questions appeared, that was limited to 9 only, out of which number system again happened to be at the top of the charts. So total 36 questions, out of which comfortably you should have attempted at least 15 questions, I would say, because they were based on absolutely, you would say, basic content. So anybody who says I'm weak in maths, I think whatever shortcuts were told in the in the classes, that should have sufficed for you to attempt 15 to 18 questions. I think even 20 questions were attemptable. So initial 45 minutes, I think you should have spent on, LR and quant, another 45 minutes, the next 45 minutes on RC. Last half an hour, whichever section that you feel, whatever question needs to be appeared in, that you could have taken up. So near about 15 to 20 questions, minimum 15 questions were attemptable, I would say. Reading comprehension, once again, top of the charts was assumptions, as usual. But there were no questions on inferences and conclusions. But then, crucial message or rational, logical, or, pragmatic message of the passage, central idea, crux, corollary, best explanation of the author's view. So 29 questions were there. I think 29 out of these 22 questions were easily attemptable. So given that 2 to 2.5 minutes you take on a particular passage, 45 to 55 minutes would have sufficed in attempting these 22 questions, at least. There were a few questions which were quite short also and quite direct, and you could have used the elimination method as was explained in the class also. So I would say in logical reasoning, out of 15, your attempts should have been minimum 13 or near about 13, 12 to 13, you can say that. Quantitative ability, minimum 15 to 20, let us say, nothing less than 15. So you need to brush up your basics if at all you feel that you have failed on that particular front. And reading comprehension with the reading speed, with, playing around with the choices, you could have attempted at least 22 questions. So 50 attempts would have been managed. And that is why I had insisted that you should be attempting mock tests. You should be doing time-bound practice as well. Now, in the classroom, there was emphasis on, in the examination, there was emphasis on general mental ability as usual. And it basically boiled down to time management, how you flip through the pages and how you make sure that you don't miss on any question. And you are able to reach up to the last page. And whatever the easy questions are hidden there, you are able to attempt them. So for attempting any examination, speed and accuracy are two parameters or factors which are most important. And we had discussed in the class that out of the two, the most important is speed, because that would enable you with more number of attempts rather than, if at all you are too much bothered about accuracy, you might get stuck at a question, right? Because it slows you down. So now it totally depends on your practice, how many questions that you had solved in the exercises, how many hours that you had put in. Time-bound practice is what we had discussed, if you remember. 30 minutes test, 25 questions you should choose, and then, put an alarm of 30 minutes and then see how many attempts you get. The emphasis was totally on the number of attempts. It wasn't on the accuracy, how many correct and how many incorrect. That don't need to be bothered actually. And conceptual clarity, we started with the basics, if you remember. PYQs and mock tests were discussed. PYQs were discussed, especially all the questions that appeared in previous year examinations last 5 years. They were discussed in the class, and with all these things, you could have easily attempted 50 plus questions. So even if you have attempted a little less than that, let us say 45 or 42, now then it will totally boil on to your accuracy, and you will have to go through the key and then find out what is your result. Anyhow, you would do that. But then with mock tests, which you should have attempted at least 10, you should have got into the habit of attempting 50 plus questions. That is what we had discussed in the class also. So at CSB IS Academy, we provide classes on LR, QA, RC, practice material and tests, and reference books are also mentioned there. Doubt clarifying by the concerned faculty member. Conceptual clarity with the basic concepts. We start from the basics. If you remember, I had given you some important rules, and those rules, there were certain questions which were based on those rules. If you remember, in speed maths, we had discussed triple one square, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 5, 3, 2, 1. So that very number, it appeared, if you remember, which is nothing but it is triple one square. So triple one consists of 9 digits. So that would have been the answer. So again, it was repeated. So most of the questions that appeared, we had already discussed in the class, near about or somewhere. Obviously, exact questions we cannot get before the examination. But the questions that appeared were largely, wholesomely, were based on the concepts that we had discussed in the class. So it is with due practice and regular attending the classes and participating in the discussion, most importantly, because I remember urging you people to speak a lot in the classroom rather than being quiet. So by participating in the class, you could have eliminated the fear of any subject. It is all right if at all we are weak in any subject. All right, you don't need to feel complexed about that. What is more important is keep working towards it. Be courageous, be brave. And participation would have helped you to a great degree in, overcoming your doubts, as well as, dwelling deeper into the concept. So solve PYQs and model questions. That's exactly what we did in our classes. So with PYQs, you came to know what is the level which is demanded. So every year you will find different set of questions. So it cannot be, your preparation cannot be based on a particular pattern. You cannot escape from the basic knowledge, which requires practice, which requires exposure towards any subject. That only will enable you to solve a question which is based on any pattern, for that matter. Shortcuts obviously were taught to you, easy techniques were taught to you. In fact, I remember giving you a sheet. I had asked you to prepare a sheet in the classroom wherein you noted down so many shortcuts. If you remember, I had already given you 1001 is 7 into 11 into 13. All right, these are the three factors. Based on this, there was a question which was there in quant. So easily you could have found out that there are, the n number of sets which have 3 positive numbers would have been more than 8, because you would have considered 1 also, and you would have considered 7 into 11, 77. You would have considered 7 into 13, 91. You could have considered 11 into 13, 143 also. So that way you would get more than 8 number of sets. Now, apart from that, confidence building is our primary aim at CSB. And that obviously comes with a lot of practice, a lot of conceptual clarity, and definitely shortcuts and easy techniques. So if at all you feel that your technique is the technique that I think you must have learned a lot in the classes by knowing that there are a lot of shortcuts, a lot of different ways of looking at a question by just using the basic principles. So, wholesome preparation to clear CSAT and GS paper as such requires, in a nutshell, first of all, attending the classes regularly. Second, revising preferably on the same day, if you remember. Third, solving exercises pertaining to that particular topic that has been taught to you on that day. Fourth, clarify your doubts with the concerned faculty member the next day. And obviously, then it comes to sectional tests, mock tests, PYQs, all these things. Apart from that, time-bound practice, which is very important, 1.5 minutes per question on 30 minutes, you take 20-25 questions, improving on your number of attempts. That happens to be the key. If you would have noticed in 2025 CSAT as well, that would have enabled you to easily qualify the paper. As it is, you're not going to score in the paper. We don't need to qualify. Qualifying is sufficient, isn't it, sir? So with that, I wish you all the best. And let me tell you that whatever has happened has happened. Okay, you did your best at this moment. If at all you qualify, you would come to know by just referring to various keys. If at all you feel that you haven't fared well, then restart, as it is said. All right, and try to make things better. This year we will do much better. You will have to devote more hours. You will have to practice more. That is how it goes. But then it is important to stay in the institute rather than at home, and consult the faculty members and spend your time judiciously. That is what is going to enable you to realize your dreams. So don't forget, you're on a journey to make your career, to have a bright future as well, and you deserve it, and you can do it. So let us guide you more in a better way, and you also prepare wholeheartedly and try to manage your time. That is more important, because uh, it's all about having a dream, but more than that, it is about working towards realizing it. All right. With that, I, Kapil Datta, sign off. I give you my blessings, and I just hope that you have done well and you would be able to qualify and start preparing for mains. Wish you all the best. May God bless you. Bye.